Thank you. Honorable Minister, Chairman of the Board of Governors of Asia University, Dato Ansari. We've come to the end of a very intense, lively and engaging 2 days of discussions. And you'll be pleased to know, Honorable Minister, that we had actually thought that we'd have about 25 participants, but 48 people have participated from 24 countries. And we are not counting our own countries, we are considering ourselves one country, Canada, because we come from the Commonwealth. So 24 countries from Asia and the US and Canada have been at this meeting. I must begin by thanking our hosts and our co-organizers, Asia University. Dato Ansari and his team have been extremely generous and warm in their hospitality. I would also like to thank Hewlett Foundation. Barbara and TJ have come all the way from the US to be with us. And if it had not been for them, these meetings wouldn't have happened in the first place. So it's really, we are very grateful to them. We are also very grateful to our partners, UNESCO, Paris. And Feng Chun is here and is about to rush to catch the plane. And Indrajit was here and he had to leave yesterday. We are also very grateful to the government of Slovenia. So on your behalf, let me thank Gasper and Mitya, our wonderful colleagues that it's so nice to work with. And I would also like to acknowledge the presence of Professor David Wiley and Cable Green from Creative Commons, who gave a fantastic presentation yesterday that actually clarified a lot of doubts, because this group has two types of constituencies. One, the very converted, and the one, the newcomers who are coming to this field for perhaps the first time. So that was very helpful. The question is, why open education resources? And let me take two examples, one from the United States, which is a developed country, that if you look at the last 30 years, the cost of housing has gone up in the last 30 years by 325% in the US. But the cost of textbooks has gone up by 812%. Where is 300 and where is 800? So I think there's a question of affordability here for students in the US. If you move now to Africa, to sub-Saharan Africa, and in Cameroon, 12 children have one reading textbook which they have to share. And this is reading. If you look at the math, the ratio is 1:13 children in entire sub-Saharan Africa. So I think if one of the questions of why OER, the answer should be to put a textbook in the hand of every child in Africa and the rest of the world. And of course, we look also at, if you look at the title of this conference, OER for Inclusive and Equitable Quality Education for All by 2030. So if we have to provide, tertiary education, technical vocational education, lifelong learning for all by 2030, it cannot happen by conventional means alone. And that's when OER becomes a very concrete mechanism to cut costs and improve the quality and distribution of content to the remotest corners. Then the next question is, what did we achieve in these 2 days? I think one, a better understanding, even for the converted, a better understanding of OER, what are the challenges, but not just the challenges, what are also the solutions? Because I think we have had enough of challenges now, what are the answers? The second is that we've had a consensus, and there's a document which is coming out of this meeting about what are the actions which we'll propose to the World OER Congress. And the third is that it's a very strong network which has been established here of both policymakers and practitioners. So that's what we've achieved in the short term. What are going to be the next steps? There are 5 regional consultations which are going to happen after this. The first one for Europe in Malta, the second in Qatar for the Middle East, the third in Mauritius for Africa, the fourth in Brasilia for Latin America and the Caribbean, and the fifth one in New Zealand for the Pacific region. The second is that we are still conducting surveys with governments. So far, we've got about 16 responses from the governments. and about 124 from stakeholders. We would like at least over 100 governments to respond. So we are still going to try to accelerate all our efforts to try to make that happen, but we would also request all our stakeholders here, especially those from ministries, to encourage their departments to fill in the surveys and send them. And for all the other stakeholders, please encourage your networks and other colleagues and share the survey with them so that they complete it and send it back to the base when we'll sort of analyze it. The third thing which is going to happen is the regional reports of all the 6 regional consultations. What's the state of play of OER in each of these regions? And a final global report on the status of OER across the world. And we will share this report at the steering committee meeting, which will be held in Slovenia in July. And that will be a background text for the Second World OER Congress, which will take place in September next year. So I'm not going to take a long time. So what are OER actually for? Let me conclude in 3 Ps. My speech yesterday concluded on 3 Cs. So now it's 3 Ps. OER are for people, for performance, improving their performance, and for forging partnerships. So the 3 Ps are people, performance, and partnerships. And with that, thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for coming to our meeting and joining us. You're most welcome.